I know you were deeply disappointed in the Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage, and you called for, before the decision actually, you called for term limits for the justices. Tell us, what do you think those term limits should be, and how high a priority is amending the Constitution to achieve this in a Huckabee administration?
Well, even the supporters of same-sex marriage should be very concerned that, as Justice Scalia, I think, very brilliantly wrote, what you now have is that our country is being ruled by a majority of 9 lawyers who are not representative of the population as a whole. That's very disturbing. And if people say, well, I love that ruling, great. So one day when we have a conservative court, and let's hope we do, I guarantee you in a Huckabee administration there will be very different kind of people appointed to the court. Let's say that the court reverses this decision and, in fact, goes back and reverses Roe v. Wade and says that every person from conception forward should be treated with dignity, respect, and protected. Now, will the left, who celebrate this court decision, be just as willing to accept that court decision? My guess is they will absolutely blow a gasket. We have a process if we want to change things, and it's called the process of legislation, the art of political persuasion. All of that was thrown out of the window. So for even those who think that the result was good, I hope they would agree that the means by which it was achieved is absolutely unacceptable.
But tell us more about your plan to change the Constitution to have term limits for justices. How long should the terms be?
That's something for discussion. I mean, let's say if we made it 16 years, even 20 years, I don't have a specific arbitrary goal in mind. I just think that people, whether they're in the executive branch, legislative, or judicial branch, shouldn't see their appointment to an office as permanent, that it would be that they have no accountability whatsoever. And I also think that when a person can be appointed to the Supreme Court and stay there for 40 years, my gosh, they might have outlived, 6 or 7 presidents during that course of time. And I'm just not sure that that's a healthy thing. By the way, Thomas Jefferson wanted there to be term limits for members of the Supreme Court, pushed for it. But the consensus was, gee, nobody will stay that long. It's not necessary to put it in the Constitution. I think if Jefferson were here today, he'd have said, I wish he'd have pushed harder.
Let me just turn this, if I could, to a more philosophical direction, away from the idea of how the Supreme Court ruled, but just on the issue of same-sex marriage. Which do you think threatens to undermine the institution of marriage in this country more? Same-sex marriage or the rampant rates of infidelity and the high divorce rates in this country among straight couples?
It's kind of like asking me which wing of the airplane is the one that's most important, the one on the left, the one on the right. The whole point of marriage is to create a relationship where 2 people are committed as life partners. One of the mistakes we've even heard over the course of the same-sex marriage debate is that marriage is all about just love and feeling and sentimentality. And regardless, heterosexual marriage is largely in trouble today because people see it as a selfish means of pleasing self rather than a committed relationship in which the focus is upon meeting the needs of the partner. And that sense of selfishness and the redefinition of love as to something that is purely sentimental and emotional has been destructive. And I think it will prove to be destructive in every definition of marriage, be it heterosexual or homosexual or polygamy or wherever the marriage redefinition ends up taking us over the course of the next few years.